Ivy Slater, and you're listening to Her Success Story Podcast, a show where gutsy businesswomen share their success journey. Hi, this is Ivy Slater. Welcome to today's episode of Her Success Story. My guest today is Nicola Fraser, better known as my friend Nikki. We have gotten to know each other, and it's my joy and pleasure to share an interview with Nikki today. We were introduced by colleagues, and she's an amazing woman because she has done so much, yet her values are in 100% alignment. And that's one of the things that I truly adore about her. She has experience as a global executive at Fortune 50 companies. She held various leadership positions at world-class organizations, including JPMorgan Chase, Fannie Mae, Deloitte, Arthur Andersen, just to name a few. She's a qualified financial expert with over 20 years experience providing solutions to clients across multiple industries in finance, accounting, risk management, corporate governance, regulatory environments during times of significant change and challenge. Nikki is a managing partner at NextKey Services. She founded this organization. It provides management consulting services in addition to the management of growing residential real estate investment portfolios. On the side note, Nikki is a mom of 3, I believe?
Yes, 3 kiddos.
3 kids. You've made major changes in your life in the last couple of years. And so you're a woman who I admire. And thank you for joining me today on Her Success Story.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me, Ivy.
So I want to talk about today, but before we do that, let's look back on you kind of have the 2 sides of that same quarter, as I refer to, is the pre-today and the today forward. And you did some wild, amazing, and significant things for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I've been a bit busy.
What made you shift and change? Share a little bit of, you did all this amazing work with Fannie Mae, JPMorgan Chase, Arthur Andersen, the big names out there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Go ahead. And then you'd made this huge move to change your life and launch your own organization.
Yeah, it was a challenge. It wasn't an easy decision. It was something that I spent months and months thinking about, debating, talking to others, talking to career coaches. It wasn't just I woke up one day and said, oh, that's it, rip the Band-Aid off and run down the street. I grew up with the support of my family, encouraging me, go to college, get a degree, get in, really work your way up the corporate ladder. My father's an entrepreneur. My mom is too. So they were wanting me to do what they didn't do. And that was great. But then I realized 20 plus years in, I kept questioning, why am I continuing to do this? Is it my passion? Am I bringing my full energy to work every day? Do I love what I do? Because I really fundamentally do love finance and accounting. I am that person. But bringing my whole self to work, that's my only way. That's the only way I operate. And I struggled as I continued down that path because it just became a game of chasing additional responsibility, additional roles, titles. And then it came, but why? I wasn't getting the same value out of it. And to me, success is a journey, and it's something that I've learned. It's a journey with a plan. It can't be just endless, but really just thinking through, okay, what is it I want? What does success mean to me? And does it mean keep doing this for the next title, the next pay raise, or is it something more? And that's when I realized it was time to really pause and reflect and take a moment. And I have worked my teenage years through college and beyond. So it was very foreign to me. It was a scary moment, but it was something I had great support from my husband and just took a moment. And that's where.
So you and your husband, when you made this decision, you didn't just make a decision, but you shifted your whole lives.
Yeah.
Can you share more about that?
Sure.
And how one thing led to the other.
Yeah, we pretty much went, it was, my husband was in a way said, you front and center, go after this opportunity for work at JPMorgan. And we moved to New York, and we did that. And then when I said, let's do something different. His career just took off, and he started traveling globally. But then I wanted to do something different. And that's when it was really, okay, spend time educating myself about real estate investing. I'd spent 7 years at Fannie Mae, understanding the housing finance. I was part of the strategic committee in the middle of the crisis. I loved that. I loved learning about that and being part of it. So it kind of gives me the goosebumps just talking about it. So to me, it was, what more can I do with that knowledge? But then I know nothing about owning a portfolio. So just being honest and embracing that was really important. So that's something that I've taken the lead on in building out a real estate investment portfolio. We've got properties in the Midwest and here in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we recently relocated. And so that was another big move. And also then the consulting work, since my passion is finance and accounting, that is something that I truly do love, and I want to continue to do that in different ways for smaller, medium-sized businesses, and then ultimately grow into providing more board advisory and serving on a board as an independent board member. So those are my aspirations and goals.
So let's look at NextKey for a sec. Okay.
Yep.
So you wanted to say you took the years you spent, the years and the knowledge you gained from being part of Fannie Mae, and your experience thereafter. And you said, okay, so let's start investing in real estate. Now, how did you start learning about this? Yes, you spent years at Fannie Mae, and there's difference between seeing all the moving pieces and then taking your money and investing in all those moving pieces.
A whole different
There's a big differentiator there.
There's a big difference. I spent a lot of time reading, listening to podcasts, and then networking. I put myself out there. I put my whole self out there, cold calls with people I'd never met before, and that's uncomfortable. That's scary. And then I connected with a great group that's based in Indianapolis, and I said, I'm going there for the weekend. I'm going to go meet these people. And that's what it's about. It's about building those relationships, forming that trust. How do they do business? How do they operate? How can I partner with them? And that's what it came about. I've been to Indy twice. I've been to Idaho. I've traveled. I've really built those relationships, because that's being a business partner is all about relationships. Right.
Touche to that one. Being a business partner, building any organization is really, your net worth is your network. Yeah. I know it's a cliche, and it's just the truth.
But it's true, right? And people are an important factor of everybody's business. So to me, it's just getting to know people and building that trust. So can you put your money with, in those investments? Well, understanding where you partner with people and what they do and their values, and that's all part of it, right?
So you started taking those actions, and then you also started building the rest of this consulting practice.
Yeah, and part of that was working through other former colleagues I've worked with in my corporate career, and just getting a feel for it. I think it's important to point out, during this time, it was a big discovery for me as to what it was I really wanted to do. And one of the things I did was I went on an interview for a job, and
a job.
Just making sure, okay, maybe there was this CFO job. I remember walking down Park Avenue, and my husband called me. He said, how'd it go? I said, it went great people, loved it. I could make this work. And he was just like, whoa, what do you mean make
it work?
It's not about making it work. It's about, what is it about? Like, will you get value out of this? Can you bring value to the table? Can you bring your energy and your passion? And that's when I realized I really enjoy working with people and using my skills in the finance, risk management, accounting area, but I didn't want it to be a full-time job. So it's important to me to do that in different ways. And consulting with companies that are in startups or going through complex transitions, I can come in, embrace the messy. I've dealt with it. I mean, Arthur Andersen, Fannie Mae. I've been around the block in a couple of different crises. So I don't mind the mess. I don't mind the complexity. I love solving problems. So to me, I was very surprised at how coming back in that consulting role was very fun for me. But it also enables me the flexibility to focus on my real estate, to focus on my board work, and provide me that the opportunity to do a little bit of everything.
So, now all these listeners are saying, wow, I want a husband who's going to ask me all those questions.
I got lucky with that one.
And, it's great when we look at and make sure we're surrounded by support teams in all fashions.
True.
So if that is not necessarily your spouse, that's okay. They've come in all shapes and sizes.
Absolutely.
It's who else are you surrounding yourself in that asks you those questions?
Yeah, I have worked on and off with a career coach. It actually started as part of a program when I was at Fannie Mae. And I was like, what is this person? Like, how does this work? And he's a dear friend of mine now, Mark. But he literally followed you to meetings and watched your interaction, your engagement, sat there taking notes in the corner. I was like, you're driving me crazy. Like, what are you doing? And but it was extremely eye-opening, because some of the things that he really, I'm very type A. I like my plans. I like to know where things are headed. And he got me to stop and pause and think about embracing the messy in life. And that was really eye-opening for me. And then also, how long do you want to work as hard as you're working? Like, you got to think about this.
That's
not
a good
just
question.
now, but in the long term. And so kind of pulling your whole life together and just realizing you can't, what's right for you now may not be right for you 2 years from now or 10 years from now, and being thoughtful around down the road, but also being able to pivot as things come up, right?
So in this, how long ago, let's just share with the listeners a little bit, how long ago did you make this big transition down to North Carolina?
9 months ago now. We moved just the beginning of this year. So, and that was something my husband and I decided on last summer. We really we made the final decision, I would say, in the summer, when we took vacation and you have a moment to reflect. Isn't that when you can really pause and really focus on what it is we want to do? My husband was traveling a lot for his job, and I was doing a lot of different things, but a lot of it was remote. Yes, I have a network in New York, I have a network in DC, but I also have real estate investments down here, and I really that's where my passion is, and that's really what I wanted to dig into and do more of. So
you moved 9 months ago, and then all of a sudden, the beginning of this year, the year went topsy-turvy by a lot of people's estimations of, I put it this way, when we were working on our 5-year goal in 2020, or a 5-year vision and goals in 2015, we didn't quite vision 2020 as the year we get.
No, we did not. It has been a year. It has been, but you know what? I've been through so much change in my career. To me, it was, I'm in this for the long run, not the short run. So if I've got a year where things don't work out the way I had planned, embrace the mess. So what? Move on. You're in it for the long run. I mean, it really is kind of reminding yourself that and focusing on your mindset as to, how do I do this long term? And how do I make sure financially things make sense in the short term, clearly, but how and what can we do long term? So does that mean less of a real estate focus this year? Yeah, that's kind of what it meant, but that's okay. I'm still in it for the long game, and that will happen.
So how are you taking this year, right, to your advantage? How do you see I've talked a lot about 2020 is the year of possibility and opportunity.
Yeah, it really is.
How are you taking those words and owning them in your values this year?
I will say one thing that I have gone full steam ahead on is networking with people. I have just truly been amazed at how open and responsive people have been, people I've never met before. I've really jumped in, and whether it's helping others on their real estate adventures, whether it's been talking to board members and understanding their experiences, getting involved in different organizations and helping, And that overall networking has, yes, it's been remote. And I do miss the good face-to-face, but it has been something that I could have curled up and paused and said, I got to just focus inwards, but that I just kind of put myself out there straight away. I think in April, I was sitting on a virtual panel with folks from all over the country talking on topics. I just went, okay, well, we just all have to change and adapt. And that was one thing I did pretty quickly. And I've just maintained that. And then I've also taken an opportunity to reflect on myself and my values, and really think about, okay, as I move forward and I'm thinking about plans for the future years, have I learned anything else in this year? What else?
I love that.
Right. What else?
What am I learning this year?
Yeah.
What have I learned this year? And always being in touch with that, I think, is so valuable.
Oh, yes. And I really think that I love being curious. I love learning. So I'm always hungry for that. And there's a lot to reflect on this year. And so, yeah.
How do you do this whole, let's say you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
You and your husband have had massive jobs, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people will always say, well, can you do it all? Can you have it all? And I'll always say, well, it depends. For me, it's define what it all looks like.
Yeah.
But that's my perspective. How have you navigated, both you and your husband being very successful in each individual rights, as well as being that mom? And now this year you're leading your own organization, and we have a very unique, what does school look like?
Yeah. A mess. 2020 equals mess.
I love that. 2020 equals mess.
Right. No, I think that's it's a challenge. I think everybody's career ebbs and flows, and everybody's personal life ebbs and flows. And I think that's important, that we can't be on full throttle on everything all the time. Not one person, not as a unit, not as a couple, right? Not as a family. So to me, it's always been about harmony. So how do they all play together? There's times in my career where I've had to just give it my all and hand off that baton. And I have an amazing partner that's willing to take the baton, right? And family members that have supported me through that too. And so I think that's part of it, is the communication, the engagement, being aware and not just letting it hit you in the face, right? So, and asking for help, which is something I'm not great at. My husband's not great at. We talk about it. We try to do too much ourselves. So that's something that we've always kind of said, okay, do we need help? Do you need help? Kind of aware of our own weaknesses.
I love that, aware of your own weaknesses.
Yeah.
And then being willing to ask, because, throw me right in there with you and your husband. Am I asking for the help I truly need?
Yeah.
And I know very often, as leaders who are used to taking on so much, the question is, we're used to taking on so much. Do we have to take on so much? Or are we choosing to take on everything we want to take on, versus are we actually seeing what we could be delegating or asking for support in?
So true. So true.
So where do you see the future and the vision for your company today?
So it's a great question. And actually I have a little mastermind group for my real estate focus. And we met this morning, and one of the things that we said was, okay, we're going to come back in 2 weeks with what are we going to do in the fourth quarter to set us up for next year?
Oh, interesting.
Right?
And I will say, this is something I just did for my business, and I've been leading my clients through for this fourth quarter.
Right? Because there are 3 months left in the year. Let's not just close it up.
We are so not done, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. So I really, my goal for my business is is really focused on my real estate and my board services and making sure that I continue to grow and develop in that way. So I would like to have more active time available to do the real estate growth, which is buying more properties in Charlotte. And then also really just part of that is networking knowledge to kind of building relationships with folks locally, which I've had a lot of opportunity to do, even virtually this year, which has also been nice, kind of as we jump into that. And then also on the consulting and advisory work, really, fine tuning that value pitch that you bring, not trying to be everything to everyone, right? I can bring a lot to the table, but also I'm just getting more and more confident as what it is that I bring to the table and where's my value. And not every opportunity, whether it's a consulting role and a board advisory role or serving on a board, makes the right sense. So making sure that I'm being thoughtful about those commitments as they come and really just exploring them further. So.
And that makes an enormous amount of sense. Number one, I'm all for, and completely endorse. We can't just look at the year, and especially this year, and say, well, this year is not what I expected to happen, so I'm just going to make my goals for next year.
Yeah.
I think that is lazy, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And if we're truly looking to grow, scale, build, lead, to always step up to that challenge and what can I accomplish in this fourth quarter? I have 90 days to make a difference. Where do I get started?
Yeah, and it gets uncomfortable. Like you have to be uncomfortable because that's where you're growing, right? I know people say it, but that's honestly in everything you do. If it's in fitness, if you're uncomfortable, you're growing, right? If it's life, if you're uncomfortable, you're growing too. So that is, going out and doing that in this fourth quarter for me is now that with COVID restrictions coming down slightly, we can get out there. We know how to practice from a safety perspective and be out and about and manage those risks. So, okay, that's no longer in your way. Get over it, move on, and manage that risk while serving your goals. And that's something that I've just really, with kids going back to school and you embrace all of the changes, that's something that I feel the fourth quarter is now a huge opportunity, not a lost quarter.
I happen to agree with you. Interesting, because earlier today we did a big bunch of team meetings and growth and development. And one of my team members, and I'm literally reading it, came back to our Slack communication and said, ladies, we're in growth mode right now. Growth mode is uncomfortable. If we were comfortable, we would be stagnant.
Exactly.
And this is literally what she wrote to our group after we had this, big strategy meeting today.
Yeah.
And it goes back to, Nikki, what you said earlier of who are you surrounding yourself with?
Yeah, your tribe.
Who's your tribe? Who are your go-tos? Who are your right hands?
Yeah.
Who are the people that when you hit that global pandemic that you pick up the phone and say, how are you seeing this? Let's talk about where possibility is right now for both of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a firm believer is you help people, it'll come back to you. You don't have to do that now, right? Things will just come back to you. And it's so energizing helping others, right? It really is. So when you're networking and you're thinking, if you're constantly focusing on what can this person do for me, that's just, it won't come back to help. It's more, what can I do for this person? How can I help this person? And before you know it, they'll come back to you in some shape or form.
It always comes back. It might not look like the way you expect it to look, but it will look even that and then some better.
Yeah, agreed. So it's really important to constantly put yourself out there and have those conversations and take those chances, take the risks, and be uncomfortable because that's where the growth can happen.
So listeners, for those regular listeners today who have chimed back in, I thank you. And you will see why Nikki and I have fast become truly built an amazing relationship. And I consider her not just a business associate, but more than that, a friend, because we are so aligned in so many things. And those listeners say, hey, Ivy doesn't interview a lot of people she says that about. And it's true. Not a good or bad. Nikki, for those listeners who are just tuning in and those listeners who don't know the Her Success Story systems yet, how could the new listeners and the new followers know more about you and learn about what you're up to?
Sure. I am active on LinkedIn, which I'm happy to talk and chat with anyone in any aspect. Like I said, I do love networking. And I have my new website just about ready, NextKeyServices.com.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, check out NextKey Services. You do want to connect with Nikki on LinkedIn. She's a brilliant woman, a woman who has an enormous amount of guts, leadership, and she executes. And these are the people that we like to all surround ourselves with. In addition to that, she has a huge heart. And and I invite you to surround yourselves with leaders like Nikki.
Awesome.
So, thank you for chiming in and listening into Her Success Story today. Please hit the subscribe button below. We come into your inbox with new content, new interviews every Monday morning. You could listen to us if you are still driving to work. You could listen to us as you're doing the laundry. You could listen to us in a variety of ways. In addition to that, if you have other friends who you think this interview will impact, please share it forward. Don't keep it hidden. Share the value you receive and have that ripple effect come back around to all, and we'll all continue to change the world. Nikki, thanks for joining me here today. I look forward to many, many more fun conversations.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Don't need your approval anymore, 'cause I've got mine.